Manuela was in her prime and had recently celebrated her 45th birthday. Despite her age, she presented herself as an extremely attractive person. At 173 m tall, she was still slim and had no weight problems. However, this was not surprising as she was able to manage her time freely and her husband was a well-known and respected public prosecutor. Financial worries were not an issue for her. A significant part of her day was taken up by sport, but personal activities such as shopping or visits to the hairdresser were not neglected either. Manuela appeared to be a happy woman at first glance, but in reality she felt unfulfilled and had the feeling that something was missing in her life. However, if you asked her what exactly she was missing, she would not be able to answer. One day, she received a clear invitation that would change everything. As usual, she started her day with a jog through the forest, which she did every day. While jogging through the forest, Manuela came to the conclusion that today would be a good day to buy shoes. After fortifying herself with a refreshing shower and a hearty breakfast, she headed into town to browse shoe stores in search of a pair of pumps. Finally, she found a pair in a store that she liked in color and shape and fit perfectly. She was overjoyed and satisfied and decided to go to her favorite cafe, Alfredo. A man who looked to be about 52 years old was sitting opposite her. He had very little hair on his head and a slight bulge on his stomach. She probably wouldn't have noticed him if he hadn't approached her. Without a word, he stood up, walked to her table and pressed a folded note into her hand before giving her a smile and walking away. Manuela was speechless and watched as the man walked away. Then she shook her head and unfolded the note. She hastily skimmed the note and her cheeks turned red as she read it. She then looked around shamefully and guiltily before becoming annoyed at her own behavior and reading through the note again. The message read, "Hello stranger, I've noticed you for a long time. I've been watching you and realized that you are unhappy. All your money and freedom don't seem to be giving you what your mind and body need. I can see it in your appearance and your style." She decided to throw the note in the nearest garbage can and then drove home, where she sat on her exercise bike and pedaled furiously for 2 hours. Although she didn't tell her husband about the incident that evening, she couldn't shake off thoughts of the note and its message. The next day, she jogged her usual route, but the note and his words continued to haunt her. Finally, she grabbed her jacket and got into the car. She drove towards the movie theater and reached it at dusk. Without adhering to the parking regulations, she stopped in the no parking zone and hurried into the movie theater. Then she drove on and finally reached the station when it was already dark and the streetlights were on. The surroundings were bathed in an eerie light. When she saw the old station building, she was startled and wondered how she had got here. She looked at the entrance with the large H and felt a tension inside her, her heart pounding loudly. But she couldn't notice anything unusual, apart from the soft whistling of the wind blowing through the cracks in the building. "It's creepy here," she thought to herself. Finally, she shook her head, turned around and hesitantly took the first steps back to her car. She thought about the note. Suddenly she turned around and stormed through the swinging door into the men's restroom. She entered the room with energetic steps and stopped abruptly. The door crunched shut. The room was dimly lit, but still well lit. 5 cubicles were arranged on the left-hand side. She sobbed quietly and rushed into the middle cubicle. She quickly closed the door and flipped down the toilet seat. Dust and dirt didn't bother her. She held her hands in front of her face and sobbed quietly. Suddenly she heard the door to the next cubicle swing open. She looked up and noticed 2 holes about 12 centimeters in diameter in the thin connecting wall. Want a continuation of this story? Follow the link in the comments.